So today I'm going to teach you a little bit about irony and then tone and mood. These are probably terms that you've talked about in your English classes before. So hopefully this is more review than you learning something new. So first, let's talk about irony. The basic definition of irony is when words are used to express something other than, and especially the opposite of their literal meaning. So there's three types of irony. There's dramatic irony, situational, and verbal irony. So situational irony occurs when what happens in the story is the opposite of what you would expect to happen. So a lot of times at the end of a story, if there's like a big surprise twist, that's the opposite of what you expected. So a lot of times that's situational irony. So if there's a store that has a sign that says it's always open, and then it says it's closed, that's the opposite of what you would expect because it says it's always open, right? So that's situational irony. If a police station were to get robbed, that's situational irony because you expect the police to be the ones to stop a robbery. So it's the opposite of what you would expect if the police station gets robbed. In this cartoon, there's a school for gifted students. You would think that if a student is gifted, they'd be able to open the door easily. So it's the opposite of what you expected. So it's situational irony that he is pushing on a door that's labeled pull. And the last example I'm giving you is a dog who's afraid of cats because you always expect the dog to be the one chasing the cat, not hiding from the cat. So it's the opposite of what you expected. So in my mind, a way I keep this straight, I think situational surprise, a situational surprise. They both start with S, and that helps me remember, okay, situational irony is the one that has like the surprise twist. Okay. The next irony we're going to talk about is dramatic. Dramatic irony adds drama to a situation. So if you're looking as a way of remembering which irony is dramatic, dramatic irony adds drama to the situation. So that's when the reader or the audience has information that the character doesn't. So we know more than the character in the movie or in the book does. So for example, in the movie Lion King, we know that Scar is trying to get Mufasa and hopefully Simba killed. We know that. Simba doesn't realize that. He thinks that he's just hanging out with his cool dark uncle, right? So that's dramatic irony. We know what is about to happen and we feel tension and it becomes more dramatic because of that. The other famous, sort of examples or obvious examples of this is when in a movie, when you're like, oh no, he's going to walk into the trap, or, oh no, the killer is coming up the stairs and she doesn't know it, right? When we sit there, we know something that's about to happen that the character doesn't. Again, that creates drama and that's dramatic irony. And the last example I'm going to give you is this one, where the fish is saying, first he warms our bowl and now he's feeding us and you thought he wasn't friendly. The fish doesn't realize that the cat's about to eat him, but we, the audience, know that the cat's about to eat him. So that's another example of dramatic irony. Verbal irony is when a character says one thing, but they mean the opposite. A lot of times it's sarcasm, but it doesn't have to be directed like at somebody specifically. So, but in this case it is. So if you're walking and you run into a counter, you hit your knee and you drop your books and someone says like, ooh, you're smart, or way to go, or smooth move, good job. They're being sarcastic, but that's verbal irony because they don't really mean good job, right? In this picture, he doesn't really, he's not really complimenting the intelligence of the girl who dropped all of her stuff. He's really calling her dumb. So it's the opposite of what he means. And another example is if it's raining out and it's been raining all week and you say, oh, what lovely weather we're having, right? You don't really mean that the weather is lovely. You're using verbal irony there. Next, to talk a little bit about tone and mood in literature. So tone and mood. The mood of a text is the feeling or the vibe that a text gives you. It's like the atmosphere, okay? And tone is the author's attitude about their subject. So if we have this example, looking at the box that's labeled mood, If it says the park welcomed children, laughter filled the air, the smiles were contagious, it was enjoyable. The mood of that is cheerful and happy, right? But if the author instead writes, the park welcomed children, but like most areas overrun with kids, it was loud and noisy. Plus, there was no place to sit. There, we get the feeling that the author doesn't really like kids, right? The words that they're saying aren't super negative, but we get the feeling that the author doesn't like the thing they're talking about. The author doesn't like kids, which is the subject of their um, text. So, in my mind, the easiest way to remember the difference between tone and mood is I think about the show Scooby Doo, okay? Because Scooby Doo is supposed to, at times, feel a little spooky when the kids are watching it, you know, when they go to the creepy mansion, right? The mood is supposed to be a little bit spooky. But overall, the attitude that the authors have about the show is humorous because it is a kid's show after all. So you can have a mood and tone that are the same, but they don't always have to be. It can be different. So that's how I think of the difference between tone and mood.